So good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Really appreciate your participation. My name is Jane Parker. I'm Monterey County Supervisor representing Marina, Seaside, Sand City, Delray Oaks, all of Fort Ord, and the southwest part of Salinas. And we're in Marina tonight, and I'm really glad to be here and to have all of you folks here. And I want to thank the City of Marina for allowing us to be in their City Council chambers once again, to be able to accommodate the public with microphones so that you can hear, and we can hear you as well when it's time for public comment. So I don't know, Wendy, are there agendas for everyone? There are agendas for the evening. I'm just going to go over the layout of how we're going to approach this. We have an august group of people up here right now. This is the first of two panels. This one is going to be talking about the Lapis Road program and the cleanup out there, what we've done, how that worked, and then you'll have the opportunity to ask questions about anything that we have said or not said about that. There are question cards, little 3x5 treasures on the seats, I believe, and then Wendy, who is passing out agendas, probably has more if you need them. Then once we respond to those questions and see if there are any people who would like to make any verbal public comments about the Lapis Road portion of the evening, we will then do a presto changeo of some of the panel members, and we'll have a different group of people up here to talk about the safe parking program and how that is anticipated to work. And again, I'll have some questions for each of the panelists. We'll have an opportunity for you to write questions about what you have heard, or if you didn't hear what you were listening for, to ask questions about that. And then there will be a period of verbal public comment on the safe parking program. So that's the shape of our evening. The idea is to have this first panel go for about an hour, slightly less, and then we'll move into the second panel and try to be done about 7:30. I don't know if you are aware of this, but I certainly am. This is supper time, and between now and 7:30, it really is supper time. So we have provided some pizza in the back, and there's some water, and I may have to break down and eat my supper in the midst of all this as well. So thank you all for being here. Let's see, I think, let me introduce, well, I guess I will be introducing the panel. In addition to the panel, in addition to the two panels, we have some other folks here this evening from the community and from the county. Let's see, first, let me see if there are any other city council members here. Yes, Frank O'Connell is here. Thank you. And Nancy Amadeo, thanks for waving. They're here from the city council. The mayor is here up on the panel, as you'll hear in a bit, and you may recognize him, Bruce Delgado. We also have the police chief here, Chief Nieto. Thank you for being here. And Layne Long is here, city manager. You'll hear from him in a little bit, so thank you. We have Charles McKee from County Council's office, sitting over there. Manny Gonzalez, who's with the CAO's office. Catherine Tierney is here. All right. She's got our backs. And I saw Glorietta Rowland. Thank you. Is Margarita? Yes? Okay. Good. Hiding. Good. Margarita Zaraga and Glorietta Rowland are from the Community Action Partnership and have been doing a lot of work on these, on the Lapis Road and the Safe Parking program.
And, excuse me, Supervisor Parker.
Yes.
A couple other brief introductions. We have Brian McMahon, our City Marina Director of Public Works. Thanks for being here, Brian. And Fred Hagerter, our Director of Community Development. Thanks, Red, for being here.
And also the chief from the college, are all right?
Yeah,
Chief
he
Wright?
doesn't count. That's okay. His nickname is Superman, and there's a poster of him in a Superman suit in the offices at CSUB. He's a pretty good Christopher Reeve looking.
So as you can tell, it's a star-studded cast, including yourselves. Thank you very much. So let's see, I guess I could make some comments, but I think I'm just going to let us go into the panel discussion. And before we do that, I want to express our deepest condolences and very happy birthday wishes to Elliot Robinson's wife, Carol Meisel, who gets to sit through all of this before she gets to go to her birthday dinner. So, yeah, so thank you for your patience and many happy returns, and what a happy time we're going to have. So we will, I am going to just move into our panel on Lapis Road. I want to I'll introduce the panelists. This is probably not the order in which they're going to speak, but this is the order in which I'm going to introduce them. We have the mayor of Marina, Bruce Delgado. He is going to have some remarks, and quite possibly Layne Long, city manager. And so thank you for being here. Rick Encarnacion from the Monterey County Environmental Health Department. He has another member of his team, Marnie Flagg, is here also from Environmental Health. Sorry, I didn't introduce you before. We have Elliot Robinson, the happy spouse of the birthday celebrator. Elliot is the director of the Department of Social Services. And next to him, Sean Atkins from the Public Works Department, very busy, out on Lapis Road. And from the Sheriff's Office, Commander Joe Moses, thank you. And then from the Lapis Road residents, we have Terrell. Thank you so much for being willing to be here. And I am going to start just by saying that with Lapis Road, as you will hear from the various departments, there have been a lot of people involved from the county side as well as from the community side who have been working to ensure that there was a certain amount of order and cleanliness out on Lapis Road and safety for the people parked out there. And it's quite a challenge coordinating the activities of people from all sorts of different departments with all kinds of different responsibilities on an ongoing, week after week basis, and you'll hear some of the good things that they've been up to. We did hold weekly meetings, sort of a combination of in-person and over the phone, to just check in on various issues and follow up to make sure that we were keeping things moving and discussing anything that needed to be clarified and worked on. And what we've really been trying to do, both with the Lapis Road program as well as the Safe Parking program, is the vehicles parking on Lapis Road. I'm quite aware that road is, it's on the outskirts of Marina, not actually within Marina city limits. It's within the unincorporated county in my supervisorial district. We have homeless folks all over the county, but I really wanted to be sure that whatever solution we were working on was being, the solution was going to also be located within my district. So there will be opportunities to talk about other parts of the community and how we can work on solutions there. But for me, I wanted to be sure that the people who needed a place, a safe place to park and sleep at night, were able to have that opportunity also within my district. So that's sort of what that's the kind of overview of what we've been working on. So first, I'm going to be asking Rick Encarnacion, I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about what were the health and environmental health risks and issues that were happening on Lapis Road.
Thank you, Supervisor Parker. Good evening, everybody. My name again is Rick Encarnacion, Assistant Director for the Environmental Health Bureau. Describing the health and environmental risks that existed during Lapis Road. The conditions that were of concern were those that issues such as solid and liquid waste and trash and debris. Those were the main issues that were of concern at Lapis Road. And some of those conditions were related to the motor homes and how trash and debris was being managed by or managed.
Or not managed.
Right. And maybe you could talk a little bit about what the responsibility is of the environmental health department in monitoring those things and then ensuring the cleanup or reduction of the issues. Yeah.
Yes. The Environmental Bureau is a bureau in the County of Monterey. We're the health inspectors for the county. We're the same people that do the restaurant inspections, the pool inspections. We also inspect various other businesses, and we also respond to complaints. We are responsible for ensuring a health and safety code is followed. In the case of Lapis Road, it is a county-maintained road, and the role of the Environmental Bureau in that essence were to be more of like a consultant to ensure that our resources were put to efficient use, and in conjunction with Public Works to make sure that cleanup was done properly, and to provide and describe and identify issues as we progress.
Thank you. And we'll hear from Public Works in just a second. Would you talk a little bit about, I know that there have been concerns about health outbreaks, and I know in San Diego there has been a hepatitis A outbreak. And so would you talk a little bit about the education, the outreach, how you ensured sanitation and disease prevention to the homeless residents out there?
Yes, environmental health is a part of public health. And our concern with situations or communities like Lapis Road, our best foot forward is to provide education to prevent bad outcomes. In this case, our concern would be issues that would be related to a disease outbreak, specifically hepatitis A. As Supervisor Parker mentioned, in the state of California, there's a current issue going on with hepatitis A where those affected include homeless and those who may have drug problems. Our focus for education is hand washing. So we actually had people from our team, Arnie's team, to go out and provide direct education on proper hand washing, which is the best defense, aside from proper sanitation. We also provided how to manage trash and debris. Much like the emergency situations related to wildfires, earthquakes, and disasters, it's kind of like the same approach. When you don't have as much resources, you have to make do with what you have. And we provided that type of information for making sure that people keep in mind to do proper hand washing, especially after using the restroom and before eating, and also to manage your trash and debris properly.
Thank you. And so that gives you sort of an overview of what environmental health was doing. If you have any questions that Rick didn't touch on, feel free to write a question on a card. We'll move now to Public Works, and we'll hear from Sean Atkins, who also was quite busy out there on Lapis Road. And maybe you could just talk a little bit about how the Public Works Department responded to some of I guess some of them were environmental dumping, whatever other issues that you encountered out there at Lapis Road. Maybe how you and environmental health and the sheriff kind of worked together in identifying those and then cleaning them up.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, also for the facility tonight. Appreciate that. We partnered with the Health Department and the Sheriff's Department in a multi-phased pronged approach to the environmental issues on Lapis Road. Not all of the materials found on Lapis Road are generated by those living out there. Lapis Road for many years, since I was a kid, has been a dump site. There's been folks camping out there.
There's currently a pile of about 50 tires.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of them have come from RVs.
Yeah, so
Not to mention couches and so on.
we really, it's the sheriff that really helped institute the cleanup by moving some of the folks. It was very difficult to clean around some of the sites where the folks had been extensively living on the shoulder of the road. It was essentially their living room. And we went through and remediated the tires, the appliances, the things that we could recycle. Then we removed the bulk waste and ultimately came back and removed the above ground human bio waste to the tune of 586 pounds. And there was areas that...
Was anyone cited for that?
I can't speak to that. I'm an environmental cleanup, not an enforcement agency. The road had areas where septic tanks, holding tanks from some vehicles had either leaked or had been dumped, and those were handled separately. We ripped the ground with the grader, with the teeth on the grader. We penetrated the ground about 12 inches. Filled the water truck with a 10% bleach solution, 100 gallons of bleach, 900 gallons of water, and saturated each one of the sites that had human bio waste in any volume in it, and later came back and encapsulated that with some fresh earth to lock down that material. We also did extensive remediation of the shoulder for motor oils, vehicle fluids that had leaked from motorhomes that had been parked in one place for an extensive period of time. There was also 3 sites where some restaurant had been dumping rancid cooking grease, 150 gallons at a time.
They've been doing it again.
And at that time we excavated all those sites and backfilled with fresh material. In 2 days, we cleaned the entire extent of Lapis Road from fence line to fence line, as well as went down Del Monte to the preserve down at the end of Del Monte and removed some large bulky items that U.S. Fish and Wildlife would have a hard time with. And we cleaned up Monte Road at the same time. It was a 2-day effort. However, we had been working for 2 months prior to that to remove all of the solid materials. It took us 2 days to remediate the human bio waste that was out there.
Thank you. Maybe this is kind of going back over what you just talked about, but could you give an idea of what were the kinds of, I mean, sometimes you were out there once a week or twice a week picking things up when you were taking care of the, really remediating the site in terms of the human bio waste. That was a couple of days. Can you give sort of a timeline of when you were doing, for what period of time were you doing sort of weekly activities, let's just call them that, and then when did you do the, the bleach solution and then move to Monte Road? If you can just give an idea of that timeline.
Yeah, it really started in late July. There was a substantial amount of hazardous materials on the roadway. Anything from car batteries to used motor oils, you name it. The very first thing we did was we collected all of the hazardous materials, visited each campsite, and tried to be sensitive and not take anything from them, but if they had any hazardous materials at the time, we would take possession of them. We containerized everything, made that was about 2 weeks, over about a 2-week period, going back to maybe twice a week to collect the materials. transported all the hazardous materials back to a facility in Salinas until the hazardous material vendor I had could come collect them and take them to Kettleman City. That was late July, early August. Then we went after the recyclables, the used tires, the appliances, those sorts of things, anything we could recycle. The solid waste was really over about a month period of time. Sometimes 2 or 3 times a week we would visit the road, make contact with any of the constituents that were out alongside of the roadway, take any materials they were willing to give us. Because at that time there was still a large daily population of urban campers, we really had to be sensitive to people's belongings versus what I may have considered abandoned waste. And so it was a process of continuously contacting folks until we could get all of the solid waste. Even after all the trailers were moved, there was still quite a bit of solid waste, and shortly after the full-blown remediation of all the materials, it quickly returned.
Just one last question for you, Sean. One of the things when I start asking Elliot some questions about how things worked out there on Lapis Road in terms of outreach and the programs, I'm going to break it into sort of phase 1 and phase 2. When we started what I'll call phase 2, where the sheriff had given a deadline to clear out, but we really didn't have a place for people to go yet, and so we gave people permission to spend the night there, and there were some conditions. And one of the things that we encouraged people to do in both phase 1 and phase 2 was to contact the county, and I don't remember which phone number it was, if they saw illegal dumping going on. And I'm just wondering whether there were any useful leads that came through that. Were the participants out there able to see people dumping things, or was it largely happening when everybody else was asleep, or maybe not?
Supervisor Parker, that number was the health department's number.
Oh, all right.
So we routinely receive complaints, but for this specific area, I don't believe we received any complaints. But we were constantly out there. I think the activity that the county was doing throughout that period really mitigated those calls to come in, because there was active action going on at that time.
Thank you. That makes sense. Great. I will move now to Commander Moses, and I wonder if you could just talk to us about the enforcement actions that the Sheriff's Department took, enforcing penal codes, citing people about, vehicle codes, other illegal activity, illegal dumpings, or how you approach that, and what citations you were able to issue.
Gotcha. Well, early on when this first was developing into an issue, we tried to work very closely with social services. We brought a lot of different people and personnel out there to try to find some permanent alternate living conditions for the people that are living on Lapis Road. Because the enforcement arm of it is our last resort. We really don't want to take enforcement action, especially on people that are already down out on their luck, and we don't want to make their condition worse. So, a lot of deadlines, a lot of visits, a lot of warnings were given. Ultimately, when we did have to take enforcement action, there were some citations issued, but our biggest thing was to tow the vehicles and impound them until they could come and get them picked up. So that was really our biggest enforcement. We did, like I said, we issued a few citations and just a lot of site visits, making people aware of deadlines coming up and things that they could do to make it a little bit better for themselves.
And so the towing and the citations were to clear abandoned vehicles, and I think I remember some conversations of Public Works needed some vehicles moved so that they could get to some areas where they needed to do some cleanup. Is that
Yes, so once the Board of Supervisors passed the temporary ordinance saying that there was no parking during the day, that of course enabled us to be able to make people move on during the day and allowed for Public Works to come in and do the cleanup that they needed to do. So we tried to do the best we could on making sure that the road was clear during the day so that could take place. But as far as towing, we did early on, we got rid of a lot of the abandoned vehicles that were out there. The stuff that I'm talking about is people that were staying in their vehicles, but they hadn't followed the rules that were set forth, such as making sure that their vehicle is registered and that type of deal.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to move to Elliot Robinson. I think I'm going to kind of break it into maybe phase 1 and phase 2, but you can talk about it any way you like. I think if you could talk about initially as people were parking out there, could you talk about some of the outreach efforts that happened either through your department or community providers to really try to connect people to assistance to the degree that they needed it or wanted it?
Yeah, I mean there are a few phases that we went through, I guess is the best way to put it. I mean, very early on, we connected with the Coalition of Homeless Services Providers to bring out someone. It turned out to be the Veterans Transition Center to go out and survey people to see who was interested in registering with the, it's called the Coordinated Assessment and Referral System, which is kind of a system to prioritize people's needs or to assess people's needs and prioritize referral into homeless programs. Initially, there wasn't a lot of take-up on the assessment problem with VTC, or assessment process with VTC. And kind of in the meantime, the enforcement issues were proceeding. And so as the enforcement issues were going forward, we partnered with the Sheriff's Office to bring out both our Adult Protective Services team, because many people who are experiencing homelessness are disabled or elderly, living on fixed incomes. And so from Adult Protective Services issues, we wanted to find anyone who would qualify, quote, as a dependent or dependent disabled person who we could bring into the Adult Protective Service system, which provides short-term support. It can provide short-term housing assistance. It can provide short-term case management, heavy referral. Now, one of the things about Adult Protective Services is it's voluntary. Seniors, people with disabled, are adults with their own rights. Sometimes they want to accept the services, sometimes they don't. But as a department, we want to make sure those resources were there. We had a couple of individuals and families who became active in our Adult Protective Services system. But by and large, many of the people experiencing homelessness didn't qualify for Adult Protective Services per se. But we also teamed up with our eligibility outreach team. It goes by the acronym McChoice, which is a program that we started really to do health insurance outreach, but we added all our other public assistance programs. Because one of the things that we know can help is if people have at least some basic income to support buying food, or if they, make sure people have health insurance, make sure people have access to services. We also continue to work with the Veterans Transition Center to see if we could engage people into the larger homeless provider system. So those were kind of, as we partnered, we tried to be there and see what we could to bring people resources. I think the biggest challenge, and it's an ongoing challenge, is what people really need, which is identifying housing. And I think as many people, if there's anyone who is a renter, anyone who's younger, knows the challenges of finding housing and the challenges of increasing rents. I think there's not a month goes by that I don't receive a few messages about someone whose rents have increased and maybe they've had a voucher from the Monterey County Housing Authority that is no longer able to be used because the rents have gone too high, and I think it should break all our hearts when we think about the challenge of increasing rents and increasing property costs and the challenges that have for people like you and I.
Thank you, Elliot. And then would you talk then about, once we had the deadline of the end of August to move out and the Board of Supervisors kind of put in place a kind of a temporary parking program out along Lapis Road, permission to park overnight, and there were some added requests of the participants, and then some added services, if you will, that the county provided, the porta toilets and so on. Would you talk a little bit about that, and then also how many people participated in that, how many vehicles were registered, and how many are continuing to participate in the program?
Yeah, so when the enforcement issue kind of came to a head, and really around many of the public health challenges that were being experienced in there, and not only the public health challenges to the people living along Lapis Road, not only to the challenges of people driving by, looking at it, but also to the agricultural fields adjacent to it. The county really, couldn't just let the situation on Lapis Road continue as was. And one of the things that Supervisor Parker's office did, and Supervisor Parker mentioned it earlier, is convening weekly meetings to figure out what to do. And so one of the proposals that came forward to contemplate was to establish a parking permission program, so that we could put some parameters around parking at Lapis Road. And notably, one of the big things was if people need a place to stay during the night, that could be accommodated, but it wasn't a 24-hour parking program. It was something that was designed to just run from 6 in the evening to 10 in the morning. With the idea being that would give time for Public Works to do some of the work they needed to do, or environmental health, to make sure that the area was clean. But again, as you implement a public program, you have to have some parameters. And so the parameters that we put in place, one was that the vehicle had to be registered, working. It had to be a legal vehicle. It would not be like us as a public system to kind of authorize something that was not legal. So number one was that the vehicle had to be operational and registered appropriately, and it had to be able to move out during the day. We also had the time restrictions from 6 in the evening to 10 in the morning. A lot of that was with input we heard from the homeless community, or I shouldn't say homeless community, from the community of homeless individuals residing there, around the difficulty of moving. So we tried to, extend it to 10 in the morning rather than some of the typical things we do earlier. Obviously not a perfect solution for people who are residing there, particularly given the cost of gas, but something that kind of tried to carve that middle path. We also asked people who we gave authority to register through the CARS system, through that Community Assessment and Referral System, to begin the process of accessing homeless services or shelters when and if they should become available. We also asked that they help us by reporting any illegal activity that they saw there. And those are the main criteria. Other criteria are contact information, so that we could contact them. Understanding that we would be having some drive-bys during the day to see who was parked there and who wasn't, because if people were not following the rules, we would revoke the permission. Overall, in addition to the parking program, the Board of Supervisors also asked us to bring in porta potties and dumpsters. So we brought a porta potty in and a dumpster. They're kept locked during the day, but open during the evenings for people to access. Challenges there get to be oftentimes when you have dumpsters by the side of the road, people will take advantage of them. That's one of the challenges we have, and I think it can't be overstated that how oftentimes other people who are not homeless will exploit the situation and dump around where homeless people reside, and that's kind of an unconscionable crime in my mind. So we had the porta potties and the dumpsters, and then overall we had 70 vehicles register, And currently about 25 to 30 are staying there in the evening. And so that's the program status as it is. And with the delay in the safe parking program, we're keeping that program going. Our partner in providing the parking permission program is Veterans Transition Center. So they come out and do a lot of the work. We also, just to control costs, because this is all coming from our discretionary pots of money, it's not coming from grants. Some of our staff, Glorietta and Marina, actually also help staff the parking permission program.
Thank you, Elliot. We're going to move now to get to hear a little bit about what the folks living along Lapis Road have experienced, and so to represent that group is Terrell. Thank you very much. And there are kind of two areas I'd love to have you cover. The first is how did the people living on Lapis Road support the cleanup efforts, the litter pickup, registering, how, what were the things that you felt that the residents there were able to do to really support keeping it clean and orderly?
Well, there's a few things here on that issue that I would like to address. First of all, from the environmental standpoint, I've been out here since October 1st. I became homeless when my mother got put into managed care, and my sister gave me no notice and was instantly, for 5 days, homeless. So I became part of this community on October 1st. Since I have been out there, I have seen no outreach. The only thing I have received from Veterans Transition Center is this. No services, no education, no what can we do for you, how can we help you. They asked me to register, they looked at my registration and paperwork, they gave me this paper, and I haven't seen them since. I see them drive by occasionally, and that's about it. I agree wholeheartly that anybody that's in this situation, that the vehicles should be legal and or at least working towards that. There are some people who, in my situation, my truck is registered temporarily. It's going to take me another couple days. I have to go out to CHP and get it certified and do that. So I'm working towards that. My vehicles are legal to be on the street. I have not, in the months I have been out here, seen anyone of our community illegally dumping sewage or human waste, period. And I'm very, very conscious of that. I also have seen the farmers on Monty Road, because some of our residents were using the lower part of Monty down by Marina, go over onto county property on the east side of the road and plow the entire road so that nobody could park there. Not on their property, but on county property. People are taking matters into their own hands to push us again and again and again. I know about the hepatitis outbreaks. I'm very aware of that. I've seen no county education people on that. I haven't seen anything. I've been out there 2.5 months. We have, in small groups, gone through, especially in Monty right now, about a week ago, about 5 of us got together and cleaned up the first quarter mile. And all the way back to there's a burnt trailer still sitting there. It's been sitting there for almost 3 weeks and nobody's removed it yet. They removed, I believe, one that burnt down, but the second one still sits there as a hulk. We can only do so much. There are tires. There is, again, your vendor, whoever the restaurant is dumping grease again. There's several hundred gallons of grease out there dumped. There's 50 or 60 tires. At times I've gone to use the dumpster and it's been locked at 6 o'clock at night, at 7 o'clock at night. There are nights when it doesn't get opened and trash piles up and piles up. Mattresses, too big for any RV, couches, appliances, things that don't even come out of our RVs. And we're being spotlighted for all the trash.
I think that really illustrates why we want to have a place that's a little easier to contain than a county road. So I think you've really spoken about some of the challenges that we all have with that location. And maybe if you could talk just a little bit about...
Well, I've actually identified a spot that may in fact be appropriate for this type of thing. And it's, according to your zoning map over there, it's zoned for multi-purpose. It's off the sight line of any major road. And it's large enough at this point to fit at least 40 RVs. There is water and sewer nearby, although most of us at this point are used to going out and dumping. You can ask the dunes. I've been over there every 2 weeks to dump my tanks, as well as most of my friends do, or they go to Veterans Park, spend the night, dump up there, that type of thing. Most of us you'll find that are registered and have been registered with VTC are responsible. And what we're looking for is a safe place to park our vehicles, to work on bettering our lives, and maybe getting out of these vehicles. But we can't be chased across the county from one spot to another, to the farmer plowing the road, to the sheriff having to come and chase us out. And it's not his fault. It's bureaucracy.
Right. Which I think is a great segue to the next panel. So thank you. I really appreciate that. And I think now if the city manager would come up, and Rick Encarnacion will trade places with you so that you can have a seat on the dais, and we'll get some comments from the city of Marina. And Mayor Delgado, are you going to speak first? Or
let me kick off city comments, and then Layne can follow up. I just want to give a shout out to CSUMB Police Chief Earl Lawson. I made some lighthearted comments earlier, but he's a very personable, accessible police chief, and Marina's been fortunate that Chief Lawson has been at CSUMB for many years, and that kind of stability and continuity between the city and the university is very important. So I want to just give you a special thank you, Earl, for Chief Lawson for being here.
Thank you, Mayor Delgado. Nothing but respect and love back to you, buddy.
I also want to say thank you to all the county officials. We've heard some of their summaries tonight, and I think they've done a great job cleaning up the environmental hazards out on Lapis regarding abandoned vehicles and bio waste, etc. So thank you. It's been a lot of work, and some people may not know that Wendy Askew, who is on Jane Parker's staff, and Jane herself, have really gone the extra mile in spending time trying to find solutions to this matter. And it's been very frustrating for them because they've run into a lot of bureaucratic roadblocks within their own county administration, as probably everyone on this dais has who works for the county, and everyone in the audience who works for the county as well. But there's just been a large county effort to do what they can. And I think the sweet spot, the goal, as far as I see it, as a representative of Marina, Marina, is to protect the public and the environment while humanely addressing the needs of those camping along Lapis Road. And I think that's what we're sort of all here, trying to find that sort of sweet spot. So thanks everyone for your patience. I know some people are concerned about the impacts of Lapis Road camping on the city of Marina, and other people are concerned more about the needs and the living conditions for those who are living and camping along Lapis Road and want to reach out and do what they can to help those on Lapis Road. So with that, I'll turn it over to our city manager. Thank you, Layne Long, for being here tonight.
Thank you, and I don't have a whole lot to offer other than we are truly, at least on our staff end, we appreciate the opportunity now to really get engaged in this process. We had a meeting over a year ago with the county staff, and then on our end, things went kind of silent and dark, and then we weren't engaged until just a couple days before it went to the County Board of Supervisors. And so I think when you look at our community, we are taking care of the homeless and the poor is one of our core values and principles. I just pulled out the recent 2017 county study on homelessness, and it talked about your sheltered housing, 758 I believe in the county. Well over 50% of that is provided by the city of Marina. I think within the next year we'll be adding 71 more units to the Veterans Transition Center, and again that is for the homeless veterans population. And we have more developments, and I can show you a map of our concern about this area is this is a high growth area. We continue to add affordable housing, and discussions has been the real solution is trying to find affordable housing, and I think we're probably leading the way. In this area we added 108 units of South County housing a couple of years ago. The Dunes, as it continues to develop, will add 123 more units of affordable housing. We have a Marina Heights development that is going, and that will add 210 units of affordable housing. Partnered with that development, the city in our own property will be, Abrams and Preston Park will be adding well over 100 units of affordable housing. And so the city, I think we are actively engaged and leading the way in providing the long-term solutions with affordable housing. But some of our concern is the rest of the cities in the county are not stepping up. They're not stepping up in the housing issue. They're not stepping up in the homeless issue. And that is part of our concern is this is the easy place because that is one of our important values, and it's easy to almost be the dumping ground. Sometimes we perceive that, and maybe that's just a perception on our part. I have a map that kind of shows Lapis Road. It's over a mile long when you look at where the vehicles are parked and the tents and things are parked. So that's over a mile long. And then a map that I have of the proposed area in Supervisor Parker's office, and then you do a half-mile radius around that, and you know, you can kind of see the problems that we're talking about. 15 space, or being able to address 15 RVs in the actual spot doesn't address the problem, because if you have 75 to 100, if you're taking first come first serve, well, they're all going to come down there, and we're shifting the problem from Lapis Road. Now you're going to have 100 vehicles all parked along First Avenue and along all these areas, because again, it's first come first serve. And we've heard, as I've been listening to other meetings, gas is expensive. They don't want to be driving back and forth, and so they're going to park. And so now we've shifted the problem to our central development area, and that's a huge concern and issue on our part. And we don't have the ability to tap into the grants and the social service type funds that the county has to address those issues. And
so I'm just going to interrupt you because we're talking about Lapis Road right now, and the concerns you're raising now are part of the next panel and the next discussion where you also have the opportunity to speak. So is there anything else you'd like to say about the Lapis Road program before we move? Okay, thank you. I definitely want to hear those, and it's really clear that Marina is setting a good example of really looking to look at the whole continuum of services that are needed for our community. I do want to, since this is the time that we said that we would stop this panel, there are a couple of questions that I want to address, and I also want to remind people when we do the musical chairs on the panel, if you haven't signed in, there are some sign-in sheets at the back. It would be helpful to us so that we can stay in touch with you on these or any other issues. If you do sign in, it also means we can get reimbursed for the pizza. Also, there are some cards are they in the back, Wendy? Oh, they will be in a minute once I put them down. There will be these cards back there that are addressed to my office, and these are just a general comment card. If there's anything that you want to be sure that I'm aware of that may or may not have been addressed, just something that's important to you that you may have said or may not have been addressed, whatever you might want to say, these cards are available for you to write your thoughts and then mail them to me so that I know your thoughts even more than I will this evening. I do have just 4 question cards, and I will go through these questions. So there is a question about, I don't know if this would be the sheriff or, but excuse me, Terrell, can you just wait a second so that people can hear? And I don't know if this would be for the sheriff or for environmental health, but the question is, how many citations for sewage waste, human bio waste, were issued kind of prior to the parking on Lapis Road? So let's say in 2016, 2015, is there a sense for how much waste there was that was being dumped and picked up from that area? Sheriff, environmental health, public works, anybody?
I can answer for the sheriff's office. I don't believe we had issued any citations for that. We don't normally issue citations for those types of violations. You know, we usually penal code, vehicle code type deal.
Right. So it wouldn't be a citation per se. So the question would maybe more be how much cleanup of bio waste was happening in the previous years. So, Sean?
All right, people. Bio waste wasn't an issue until the beginning of this year. It really ramped up through the month of July. I found 586 pounds above ground of human waste. I found an 80-pound water balloon that didn't have water in it. It's only been an issue this calendar year. Prior to that, we would about every 2 to 3 months go out on a periodic basis and pick up the solid waste from Lapis Road. Again, solid waste has always been an issue even before the influx of the urban camping, and it's not specific to this area. All major cities have illegal dumping around their perimeters. It's part of what happens. The human waste is really what pushed the environmental issue over the edge. There was quite a bit of hazardous materials found. Hazardous materials are found in illegal dumping in other places of the county, and it wasn't prolific in this instance. What was very prolific in the first 6 months of this year was the human waste.
Great, thank you. And while we're on the waste issue, there's quite a bit of trash that gets dumped that doesn't have to do with the people living in their vehicles there. The sort of the questioner calls it fly dumping, just the community members who dump things. And the question is there a system by which that trash can be collected? Whose responsibility is it? The dumpsters get emptied, but whose responsibility is it to take care of the stuff that's just dumped outside the dumpster?
Well, unfortunately, it is county road right-of-way, and at the end of the day, it's my responsibility. I have the responsibility for remediating trash on 1,236 miles of roadway.
Thanks. Did you have a response?
Yeah, I have a question. Who actually would be responsible for writing citations? For if, say I identify someone who's illegally dumped tires, who do I report that to, and how do they get a cite? Who is responsible for citing them?
Good question.
If the sheriff's not responsible for citing them, who is?
Well, for illegal dumping, there might be a citation. But they do have to be able to identify who the person is and essentially have some evidence that it was that person. So, in answer to that question, who would someone call if they saw some illegal dumping happening? I mean, this is a question, people need to know it.
So, Supervisor Parker,
Yes.
so we did release our phone number with the health department, 755-4505, because we do respond to complaints, and the cleanup would go to the property owner, just like what Sean was mentioning, it's the county responsibility when there's dumping on county property. So that's where it kind of circles back to ensuring that the property owner cleans up their property. And like what Sean mentioned, it's an issue that happens all throughout the county, illegal dumping. And there's hot spots, and there's various programs. But in terms of enforcement, how the health department approaches it at least, is try to inform the property owner that cleanup needs to be done, which is kind of like, for the property owner, it's an issue because they may not be the ones who have dumped the matter, in this case on county property.
My question though is, if I report it, how do I know that if I see someone illegally dumping tires, and I call you, how do they get a ticket? How are they going to get? Are you going to call him? Who's going to call him? Who's then going to go out and issue a ticket? Is it got to go through 3 steps to do that?
Well, there are processes for us to follow up on issues with
And after that month or 2 months goes by, and that person's left the county?
Could you give that number again?
Sure, 755-4505.
4505. Great, thank you. 4505, yes, Sean.
The health department is actually the lead in an illegal dumping task force, and they're very active and do follow up and pursue leads.
So I'll sit out there with a night vision camera and I'll get you.
Thank you.
I'll get you 20 arrests in the next month.
Okay, perfect. That's what we've been asking for. So if we could now, I'm sorry to cut you off, but we're 10 minutes behind schedule, and I know there's going to be a lot of discussion for the next panel. So I did just have a question that said, are Lapis Road individuals residents of Marina? And I think that means, did they live in a house-ish in Marina before they became homeless? And we don't necessarily know the specific answer to that specific question, but what we do know from the county housing survey and census is, and there are copies of it on the back table, but it's something like 80% of the people who are currently homeless in Monterey County have been residents of Monterey County for 1 year, 5 years. I mean, our homeless population are our family and neighbors and friends. So, and Mike, you had a specific question about some parking, and I'll get to you specifically on that. So now, if I could ask the current panelists who are not going to be continuing to liberate yourselves and your seats. Thank you so much for participating. Terrell will be staying, Elliot Robinson will be staying, City Marina will be staying, and if Tia Fector and is Michael also going to come up? That will be our switcheroo. Feel free to help yourself to pizza while we shuffle some folks. And now we will move the discussion to the safe parking program. We will be talking a bit about what we envision at the county facility, the county parking lot in front of the coastal office, but we'll also be talking about how that fits into the broader spectrum of services that are provided. We're going to focus mainly on the Peninsula at this point. And, you know, one of the things as the city manager was saying, you know, there are quite a number of people who are living in their vehicles in Monterey County. The number that we have from the homeless census is about 400 people living in their vehicles. That could be a conservative number, but we'll just start with that as a working number. And we know that is countywide, I believe. But as we know from seeing the number of vehicles that were parked out on Lapis Road, that's a lot more than can fit in the parking lot at, you know, 26 20 First Avenue. So we will be, as we go forward with this, we will be looking for other locations where people can safely park overnight to sleep. And we've been looking around. There are quite a few communities that are responding to this issue and probably have some good ideas about programs that work. And again, we're really looking to find solutions that we can implement in our own communities, and not pushing people out into other areas. So I'm going to we're going to have Tia Fector talk a little bit about safe parking programs. She is the provider who will be working on this particular one. She has experience on the Peninsula with a number of other locations, so she'll talk about how it works, where some of the other locations are, and sort of what the goals are and how you measure success in a safe parking program. Once she does that, then Elliot Robinson will talk a little bit about the RFP process that the county went through, and the contract. And then also Elliot will talk a little bit, he'll talk about the context a little bit more. How does a safe parking program fit within other homeless services that are available on the Peninsula, and maybe where we know there are gaps. And then we'll hear again from Terrell about the thoughts of folks who might participate in this program, the role that they've had in the contract development and providing feedback. And then we'll hear from the City of Marina. And again, this is another opportunity for you to take the cards that are on your chair, or that Wendy has to pass around, to come up with questions that we can have the panel answer. And then once we do that, we will have, I'll check and see who wants to speak in verbal comments, and hopefully we'll just sort of figure out how much time we have left and what that means about the length of time for each person's comments, so that we can hear from as many people as possible and still get out before bedtime. So thanks again to everyone for being here. And I will hand it over to Tia Fector to talk a little bit about the safe parking program, how it works, where else it's working, and how you gauge success.
Thank you, Jane. Should I walk up to the projector and project for you? Okay. Or something? Awesome. Okay, cool. Thank you. Is my mic on?
If you push it, there should be a light green light showing. There you go.
Okay, there we go. Perfect. So One Starfish Safe Parking and Supportive Services program has been operating for 4 years now, so it no longer is in a pilot stage, but it had 1 year as a pilot and 3 years as a successful operating program that has been expanding with time. We currently operate with 5 sites that are active, and they are across the Monterey Peninsula. We have sites in Seaside, Pacific Grove, Monterey, and we also have a small site in Marina. Yeah, you can go to the next slide, Wendy. Thank you. So we are a program that understands our limitations. So we're a program that feels as though the best demographic that we can support are those who have encountered homelessness due to economic reasons. And we understand that we are not equipped to help people with severe or undiagnosed mental illness and those that have active substance abuse issues. We find that we're not a social service agency, but we are able to provide some level of support that has been very effective over the course of the last 4 years with this demographic. So we work with people who have encountered one or a few traumatic incidents in their life, such as job loss or divorce, situations where people have been the main responsible person for the care of an elder, and to the extent that they become financially unable to care for themselves once the elder passes on. So those are the kinds of issues that people face that sometimes result in homelessness. Next slide. So we see our mission as serving Monterey County residents who became homeless while a resident of Monterey County. We offer wraparound services, so that means that anyone in our program meets with a case manager on a regular basis. And we provide access to facilities such as porta potties and for bathrooming needs. Some of the places that we have offer their bathrooms to individuals in the program as well. So those are the more highly desirable sites where that is true. We refer people to other organizations in the area, so we have developed relationships with other service organizations. And we have some funds that are available to provide some financial assistance when you're living in your vehicle and it needs a major repair. We have some funding to help support that. Just recently, as tonight, some of our locations get pretty chilly in the evening, and we have been primarily working with elderly women, and so we have some money to provide some hotel vouchers for nights where it dips below certain temperatures. And we have a lot monitor that patrols all of our lots and locations, so they do random inspections to ensure that those who are permitted to park are the only ones parking in the lots, and so we're trying to protect the safety of those of our guests who are using our sites. And we find that operating such a program reduces the vulnerability of participants. One of the issues has been with people who are experiencing homelessness when they're fined for when they're fined for parking in a place where they're not supposed to be parking at night. That adds to the barriers of trying to recover from homelessness. And we also find that having a safe place to park every night provides some stability and it eases someone's stress. So we're not trying to find a different location so that they're not noticed. Instead, we are a program that's focused on trying to provide support. So we see our goals as increasing income, providing permanent housing, and helping them find permanent housing. We don't have any housing to offer at this point, and providing access to health care. We are staffed with a program director who is right here, Michael Factor, my husband, a caseworker, and a lot monitor. To enter into the program, there is an intake process. So we don't disclose the exact sites on a regular basis, because when there's publicity around where the locations are, there is also some misunderstanding of how to gain entry into the program. So then we have more lot monitoring efforts in place around times of higher publicity. That's what we found over the course of the last 4 years. So there is an intake process, and you schedule an interview with a case manager. You need to provide proof that you had some type of residency in Monterey County before being able to enter into the program. You need to have a valid driver's license, vehicle registration, and insurance. So I think it was set up in the last panel that we can't really promote people engaging in illegal activity, so those are the basic requirements of the program. And there needs to be shared goals of reestablishing housing, increasing income, and getting access to appropriate health care. And so long as those goals are shared, then someone becomes eligible for program participation. And then we, of course, we have a liability waiver that one signs. So our program monitoring includes either security or a volunteer lot monitor. And there's regular visits with a caseworker. We also notify the police departments of our operation so that there can be a partnership there, and the police department can drive by at night to help ensure the safety of the guests in the program. And again, we have some very basic rules that someone that's a participant needs to comply with all the laws. There's no drug activity that's allowed, no firearms. One must display their permit, and we don't allow for someone to, for example, set up a grill or a tent next to their vehicle. It's really very self-contained. The vehicle serves as the place that you sleep at night. When you come to the lot, the expectation is that you're coming to the lot to prepare for sleep and bedtime, and not for other activities that one engages in their regular and daily life. So that's pretty much the basics of how the program operates. So for the course of the last 4 years, we've had about a 70% success rate in rehousing people who have come through the program, so long as they have participated at least 3 months or longer. And a permit is only issued for 1 month at a time, so there's a reevaluation every month as to whether or not someone is qualified to continue to participate in the program. And we've been successful with 55% of our guests with helping them increase their sources of income, and all of our guests have achieved being able to get some type of health insurance through working with our case manager in the program. I hope I didn't take too much time.
That's great, thank you. Okay, let's hear the question.
How many people with RVs do you serve?
To date, we have served 2 to 3 in RVs.
Okay.
How
How many clients?
We have served about 60 guests in our program.
Thank you. All right, I'll turn it over to Elliot Robinson to talk a little bit about the RFP and the contract. Yeah, we'll do that, and then we'll go into the other services.
Okay, so we actually went through 2 processes. Initially, requests for letters of intent, and for technical reasons that didn't quite work, so then we issued an RFP. One Starfish was the only respondent to the RFP, and we were pleased because One Starfish is a program that actually ran and runs similar type programs around the county. And I think safe parking programs are not necessarily so easy to implement, and the research and background that the One Starfish program has, I think, is ideal. So RFP, that's kind of the county's competitive process. Oftentimes people talk about bureaucracy and its challenges. Yes, there are challenges with bureaucracy, but there's a reason for that. We have to give everyone a fair shot at doing the public's work, because it's the public's money. So someone like me can't just say, God, I like Jane, I'm going to give her a big fat contract. That's not how it works. So RFP process, vendor selection, it was somewhat easy in this case because we had one respondent. There are a few curves along the path, still some curves that we're trying to iron out, but We think we are at the finish line in ironing out the contractual relationship with the One Starfish program. Elements that were important to the county in moving forward. One is, level of flexibility. We went with the location at 2620, 2616, First Avenue, because it's the one location that we could actually identify. It was a location where the county actually had control of the property. It met, I think, Supervisor Parker's laudable goal of not pushing the issue somewhere else, but keeping the solution in her district. But we also want to keep the doors open for other options, better options. There are things that we've heard from the community that we certainly respect, but we also have to kind of work around the parameters of the options we have. People have asked for longer hours, people have asked for more space, leveler space. Those are all things that certainly we respect and would like to be able to accommodate. The other parameters are 7 to 7, so it's an active use building. In that building right now are our adult services programs and Supervisor Parker's district offices. And again, I think, kudos to Supervisor Parker and kudos to my staff for saying, we're not in my backyard. We don't have that approach to the world. But we did ask for, a higher level of security, so the contract does include nighttime security patrol in addition to the program monitor. We've also are working to kind of expand a little bit of the daytime security around the building, and are also very aware that the office is kind of amidst the four-door barracks where people say, can you locate homeless programs in that community? And there are homeless people living in those barracks already, and there are challenges with that. So having that stepped up security, I think, is very important for the safety of the people who do utilize the program. Because I've heard from a number of public safety officials about the challenges that exist today prior to the program going into place around the homeless community that's much more invisible than the barracks and the encampments around the highway, etc. So that's what we're trying to achieve, and we're very pleased that there's also a level of service delivery and off-site case management that is provided to residents of the program, so that that level of support, which we don't have in the VTC contract for ongoing case management, is included in the One Starfish program. And obviously we wish we had more capacity, but we have to work with the terrain we have. And we welcome any other proposals people have for locations, as long as we can make it work.
Thank you, Elliot. And would you just kind of talk about how you see the safe parking complementing other existing homeless services on the peninsula? What are they and how do they?
Yeah, there are a number of other programs. So within the city of Marina, there are a number of more transitional programs, but there's also Community Homeless Solutions does operate shelter services as well on the former Fort Ord. That was part of the base reuse conveyance that the McKinney-Vento Act, a piece of legislation, when a base is conveyed to a community, there's a priority for homeless services. And so there's a number of programs already in place. VTC has a large program and has been expanding even beyond the base reuse conversion, which is a wonderful partnership between the City of Marina and Veterans Transition Center and the Army. In San City, there's the Salvation Army Day Center where people can access showers and food and case management. In Monterey, there's a shelter for homeless youth, a safe place, which is a great resource. One of the things that came out in the census, most recent census, is growth in the number of homeless youth, transition age youth, and I know enough people in their 20s who have just such challenges affording rent that again, it breaks my heart when I think of people who are of childbearing age who are making decisions and contemplating family, but also struggling with the risk of their housing. There's a domestic violence shelter somewhere out here. I won't go into details about where the domestic violence shelters are. There's also the IOUT program that's run by Outreach Unlimited that works with a number of churches for rotating shelter services. And I already mentioned Veterans Transition Center, which is just an exceptional partner in any number of programs, but has been just doing yeoman's work at finding housing for veterans and working through the various veterans grant programs. So there are a lot of services, homeless services on the peninsula. One of the needs that we have county-wide that we've just been working pretty diligently in Salinas is around kind of an open use homeless shelter. One of the things I hear from Catherine Turney fairly frequently with the Coalition, Catherine Turney with the Coalition of Homeless Services Providers, is how valuable it is to have just a much more open shelter that they can refer to rather than having to go through a series of questions. Well, do you fit in this category? Do you fit in that category? Because oftentimes it doesn't do a service to people to overcategorize them.
Great, thank you. Now, Terrell, we'd love to hear from you about how the residents on Lapis Road have participated in this process and any thoughts you have as this starts to get underway.
Our participation up until recently has been limited. Our participation is registering those of us who have, and that I would have to say is, I don't know if it's a majority, but those of us who can have registered. To my knowledge, this is the first meeting other than us appearing at several boards of supervisor meetings that we've actually been invited into to participate. And what I see going on right now is very little attention is being paid to the actual problem. That there are 40 to 70 or 80 RVs scattered throughout the county, mainly in Marina and Lapis Road and Monty Road, that are being kicked from site to site to site to site with no recourse, with no end in sight, and with no permanent solution. We've identified at least one site that's appropriate, and I'm waiting for someone to hear my proposal on the site. According to your zoning map, it's a multi-use site. It's part of the old Fort Ord. It is part of the, can be included in part of the reuse program. It's level, it's appropriate for RVs, it's off the sight line. It is not on site of any of the major roads. It's within 100 feet of the site or 200 feet of the site or water and sewer. Let's move forward with this. Let's find a site that doesn't just handle 15 people or 10 people or 2 people or 5 RVs or 2 RVs. Let's find some place that works for everybody, that can be expanded and or contracted as necessary, that can be managed by the occupants, patrolled by the occupants. There's enough technology in existence to monitor and police the entire, any of these entire encampments for 10% of what the county's budgeted. 24 digital cameras and a DVR system with night vision capability can be purchased for less than $10,000. And it keeps a 30-day record of everything that occurs. And that can cover a half-mile radius. 24 cameras can cover over a half-mile radius. Night vision, good enough to read license plates, anything you want. You can have, we can identify ourselves to the sheriffs, to all the homeless programs. We have a site that's viable, we think.
Great.
And we want people to see it, and we want it to move forward.
Super.
We want it to move forward fast. Because kicking us around the county is not getting it.
Great, is Manny Gonzalez still here? So Manny Gonzalez is meeting with a number of people who are looking at other locations, whether it's to move it from where it's being proposed or for expansion purposes, so.
When can I set up a meeting with you?
All I need is the information where the site is and we're looking at it.
In Jenkins Reservation. In fact, I'll locate it for you on the map right now.
Great, and while you do that, I'll hand it over to comments from the City of Marina. Mayor Delgado, do you want to start? All right, and then we'll hear from the City Manager. Thank you.
So I've heard that at the recent Board of Supervisors meeting, when there was a 5-0 vote to establish a safe parking program at Jane Parker's 4th District Supervisor's office parking lot, that the word NIMBY was used, not in my backyard, that we're not, we can't be NIMBY people, we have to be yes in my backyard or YIMBY people. And I wanted to point out, as I have in previous meetings, that the Marina community is already the home to the regional landfill. It's the home to the regional sewage treatment plant.
Yes.
It's the home to the regional sand mining plant.
Yes.
It's proposed to be the home of the regional desalinization plant, which will provide not one drop of water to Marina, but to the rest of the region. And now it's the proposed home for the Southern Monterey Bay region's largest parking program for homeless vehicle camping. So although we will do our fair share to help homeless needs, it's never the case that someone could apply the word NIMBY to the City of Marina when it comes to doing our fair share for regional needs. Over the last 20 years, the City of Marina has supported over tens of millions of dollars for providing supportive housing programs for at-risk populations. The Rock Rose Gardens, the Sandy Shores, Pueblo Del Mar, the Veterans Transition Center, Abrams and Preston Park, the domestic violence locations, new housing subdivisions portion of affordable housing. So we have taken the tack in the City of Marina that it's more important to provide at-risk homeless populations housing accommodations where they can also receive legal, job skill, medical, family needs, so those can be addressed, not just their homelessness, but it's important to find them housing and shelter, rather than focusing on the daily needs of homeless people who are on the streets. But that said, Marina is still willing to do our fair share of helping with the daily needs of people who are on our streets. And some of the kinds of questions that Marina has asked the Board of Supervisors recently are questions such as, can there be an official plan for citizens to help the people who are camping in their RVs and other vehicles with their needs for food, toiletries, etc. Because there are a lot of people in Marina that would like to help if they knew how better to do that, so that the direct day-by-day needs could be partially addressed by willing donors. The proposed Marina property that's in the City of Marina for safe parking is zoned office research. Camping uses are not allowed in that zone. Normally the city would be required to complete a general plan text amendment to allow that kind of camping use. So we're asking the county, how does that all work? And if there is camping near a retail, commercial, and residential area, such as along 2nd Avenue, not far from the proposed safe parking program location, to what extent have the potential impacts to those existing uses that are already there been considered from the proposed camping? We just can't stick any new use in an area that's not amenable to the existing uses without having a good, well thought through plan on how to deal with those impacts. The City of Marina's fire and police staff are at times basically staffed on a skeletal level. They're simply not staffed enough to handle a substantial increase in calls to patrol, or if there are responses needed to incidents that are occurring, that could occur in this camping area. So we want to know what evaluation has been done to evaluate the fire and police support that will be needed. And we want to know what county dedicated resources have been targeted so that it's county that can help out with these day-to-day needs, not just adding on to our fire and police. Because like I said, we already have more than our fair share of housing programs for those who have special needs. And our police and fire regularly are needed to support those existing housing programs, such as the Veterans Transition Center. And there will be more needed with the new VA clinic, and that's great. We're doing that. We're taking on that responsibility, but we do have a limit. And if the regional housing program for these campers is going to be in Marina, we just need to know some of the answers to these kinds of questions. Where First Avenue that is proposed for this new camping area, it's proposed to be at 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. camping. Well, when those campers need to move, they're going to go to the closest available turnout or place. That is going to be in the general vicinity of First Avenue, Second Avenue, etc. Well, there's a lot of abandoned buildings in that area that aren't properly secured because it's very difficult and expensive to secure those. So one of our questions is, how is the county going to help us prevent a lot of use of those abandoned buildings more than they currently get? So we're not opposed to what's being proposed, but we want to know, why not the Monterey County Fairgrounds? Why not the travel camp at East on Watkins Gate on 4 North? Why not the other 4 county district supervisors? If you want to talk about who's not in my backyard, there are 5 such locations. Why not the county courthouse? They have a few parking lots in downtown Salinas that are underutilized during the night hours and very early, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Why not Laguna Seca? Why not the Sunset Center? Yeah. Because the reason is, every place I mentioned, there are people very vocally opposed to putting them in those locations for many of the same reasons that we've been discussing here tonight. We want to know if this current proposal is a temporary or a permanent proposal at the Marina location. Because we would be much more amenable to it being on a 1-year rotation basis, where it's in Marina for 1 year, then it's in Monterey for 1 year, and then Carmel, and then Pacific Grove, and then Seaside, and then it's our turn again. You know, that's an equitable way of sharing impacts from serving any regional need. But this region is not used to, in many cases, sharing the adverse impacts equitably. It's go north to where Marina is. And we are oftentimes the least economically able to support these issues. But we do the best we can. And the last question that we've asked the Board of Supervisors has been slightly addressed tonight. And thank you, Tia, for addressing all of these policies that you utilize. But as you mentioned, you're not the police, you're not the county authorities. So what are the on-site weapons and illegal drug policies for the proposed county safe parking lot? Because we're concerned about impacts to Marina. Should there be a shooting or other serious assault incident, it's our reputation that's on the line, where we're trying to clean up what we have now and improve what we have now, because frankly we don't have some things that more affluent neighbors have to the north. And we're working really hard to control our finances to be able to provide those adequate services that most cities take for granted. But in Marina, we have a little ways to go. So we're working hard for that, because we don't want to go backwards. And so we are very concerned, trying to look ahead so that we don't have the kind of national news incidents that many cities have had, and anyway, it can happen anywhere. But these are the kinds of questions that we've asked the Board of Supervisors that we hope can be addressed before Marina just says yes to this. So at that, I'll turn it over to Layne Long. He's done a little bit of detailed analysis here, and he's going to show us some information that he's prepared for tonight. Thank you, Layne.
What's the
policy about not applauding?
You have to ask Jane, it's not a city council meeting tonight.
Fairly informal.
We try to discourage boos and applause so that it doesn't become a popularity contest, Mike. You know, that's our general policy when it's a city council meeting. While Layne's setting that up, I wanted to mention that Lapis Road has never been cleaner in the last 20 years that I've seen it as it was 2 weeks ago. I'm not sure what it's like. She said it's 2 weeks ago when I last saw it. But the county has done a great job along Lapis Road. And maybe the campers, and people like Mike Owen, and our police chief picked up litter. I haven't seen Earl Lawson out there picking up litter yet. We'll have to.
Let me know when, Bruce.
We'll have to check. He can bring his archery equipment and shoot those far to get pieces of trash, roll them back in, with a string attached to your arrows.
Maybe while Layne's working, I can, you raised a number of questions, and a couple of us can maybe take a, get a start on the answers, because we don't have much time left, and I want to give the members of the public here a chance to speak. So one question was, what's the, you're ready now, right?
You go ahead. Yeah, basically, this is a map that we just want to show the proposed location. And as it's been mentioned, it's in a office research zone, which is not zoned for RV camping type activities. Typically, when you have zoning in a city, you would have a RV and camping type uses on your outer edges of the city. You'd not have it in the middle of an office and professional zone. You wouldn't have it in the middle of a residential neighborhood. You wouldn't have it in the middle of your commercial offices. And so that's a first primary problem that we have. We know it's a legal issue, and our legal staff is working with county legal staff on that issue because we aren't sure that legally it could even be located at that site. But that's a first issue, and the appropriate zoning is really important for any city. You want the use compatible with the area, and would like an opportunity really to look at it and really try to find the appropriate area. This first circle you can see on the map gives you a sense of a half-mile radius, and I put that in the context of Lapis Road is about a mile. And so if you have a mile worth of RV and vehicles parked along that road, and only 15 in the county's parking lot, where are those rest of those 80 to 100 vehicles going to go? And you can look at the roads there, and they're going to be pretty packed. And again, that is a office and a professional and a residential area that is growing right now. And so those are some of the overall concerns that we have from that perspective. It had been mentioned that there's a multi-use zone. Multi-use is not a zone for RVs and camping. It's usually a zone that you have a mixed use of residential and retail. But there are appropriate zones for camping and RVs and uses like that, and those are the, we'd like opportunities to really explore the appropriate zone location for something like that.
Great, thank you. I am going to address a few questions to the panel members, and if you can answer them fairly briefly so that we can hear from, if anybody has verbal comments. I do just want to introduce another council member who has arrived. Gail Morton is here. Thank you for being here. Elliot, maybe you could talk about how community members can help the homeless. It seemed like that was a fairly general question, maybe not specific to the safe parking program, but homeless in general, or was it for
the people on Lapis, the people who may go to the safe parking location, toiletries, food, their needs?
Well, a couple of things. I mean, one, I might turn to Michael, who's replaced Tia, specifically as it relates to the safe parking program, but also say there are any number of ways to give to support the homeless community. There is a list of members of the Coalition of Homeless Services Providers. There's the One Starfish program. They all gladly accept donations, and oftentimes I will just tell you, if you do have enough resources to make a cash donation, that's exceptionally valuable. I'm always just so aware of what a shoestring budget so many of our homeless services providers run on, and how much they rely on the partnership with the community around to support operations. So just I want to encourage donations, first off. Second off, I want to say if it's something really tattered, generally not. I mean, I every once in a while, you know, it's funny, I was talking to the mayor of Salinas, where there's just a huge challenge with homelessness. I don't know if you're aware of, kind of, as the homelessness has grown in Salinas, it's just been a huge issue there, where countywide homelessness has grown about 23%, Salinas is 57% growth, so big challenge is there as we've seen. But the mayor of Salinas was telling me how he was in Chinatown one day and someone came by with just an old tattered couch that they wanted to, quote, donate. That is not a donation. If you want to get in touch with any of the providers,
I think I saw that on Lapis.
yes, old tires are not a donation. But you know, to the extent toiletries, gift cards would always be welcome. And I don't know if you want to speak to more.
No, I think you've covered it.
Yeah.
Actually, there's and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's a Presbyterian church on California Avenue in Marina, and a lot of us use the food bank.
It's Epiphany Church.
Epiphany Lutheran.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, a lot of us use that. So that is if you have time to volunteer or donate there, there are a number of us who use those services.
Great.
So if you're targeting Marina and the Lapis Road people, that's a good place to target.
Excellent, thank you, very helpful. And then Michael, maybe I'll have you talk a little bit about, there was the question raised about, have you assessed the fire and police needs? And maybe you could just speak to the security that you provide. And then also, could you also speak to the issue of, having this kind of parking program isn't necessarily appropriate in a commercial or residential area, and how it's been working in the other areas where you provide the service?
Well, first I'd like to say that my wife and I are private citizens, that we moved to the area about 6 years ago and just discovered how many homeless people there are here struggling for all the variety of reasons. And so we started our little group out of money we barely had. And, frankly, have depended very kindly on grants. Municipalities have donated a dollar per citizen at times. And Mayor Delgado makes some wonderful, wonderful statements that the region really does need to join in, because Marina does so much already. And we want to work very much hand in hand with municipalities, and we've developed very close relationships with the Sheriff's Department and the local police of every jurisdiction where we operate a lot. I dreamt of becoming a policeman. Instead, I became a comedian. Chose a very simple way out, hard work. So what we've discovered in our 4 years of running this program is that the people that come into our program, we very much cherry pick. We are looking for people that want help and are not going to be problems, because we simply don't have these skill sets to handle people that have severe mental illness, drug problems, this sort of thing. So the people that are coming into our program come in at night tired. They want to go to sleep, they want to start their day fresh, they want to seek health improvement or job opportunities. And what we've really found is that they keep a very close eye on the neighborhood because they want to be safe. And so they report to our lot monitors, to the police, any suspicious activity, any drug activity, because they want, this is their home. They, you come in at night, you want to watch the news and go to sleep. And so in the years we've done it, we've had 0 incidents of any kind of aggression, any kind of violence. We've had to remove a couple people from the program just because they were disruptive to other people in the program, because they played their music too loud, or just these very, very minor kind of things. So in Pacific Grove, the neighbors have actually found that having the parking program there has reduced the incidence of illegal camping homeless. And to be frank, that's generally when we see problems, it's with the outdoor living community that are in the woods and feel very, very territorial about anyone even seeing their campsite. And so honestly, to date, these parking lot programs have helped the areas. But of course, we don't work just for the guests. We also work for the citizens of the city. So please, our doors, our phones are always open to any issue you may have.
Mike, what are the numbers of parking slots, if you will, in some of those areas you manage?
Okay, generally we are keeping it at about, Tia, correct me if this is wrong, it's 5 generally. And the lots are generally full. Some of the, we have some in unincorporated Carmel that are not quite as busy this time of year because it gets colder there and because of gas costs, And so many of the issues that you do have are legitimate. People are not going to want to go too far away because RVs use, what do they get, 6-7 miles a gallon in general? If you're lucky. If you're lucky.
I personally use a 3/4 ton Dodge truck and a 21-foot trailer, and yeah, I'm lucky if I get 5 or 6 miles to the gallon when I'm towing.
Yeah.
On an average day to move from just Monty to Dole, between warm up and go and move and park, and $10 in gas.
Yeah, but I would imagine that you would be the eyes and ears to make sure that if there are transients in the dilapidated barracks. It's almost like having a free security force, frankly.
In the area where I'm at, there are about 7 or 8 of us who are working in concert to keep that 1/4 mile or so strip that we're using at the moment clean and tidy and secure and out of the way of anything else that's going on, and we police ourselves and we keep an eye on each other's equipment, and we try to be good citizens as much as we can. And all we're asking is not to be kicked around the county every day.
Yeah. Because I mean, in our experience, the crisis really isn't a homelessness crisis; it's a housing crisis. And I think that all of us, that are middle income and lower, feel
if I have to move every day, it costs me. If I had to move every day, it would cost me 30 to 45% of my total gross monthly income just to move my trailer once a day, or once in the morning, once in the evening.
So what that tells us is that, as long as this is a program where people have to move, something that would be really valuable at Epiphany Lutheran Church are gas cards, if people want to help.
Yeah,
because
that's true.
This is, or to the One Starfish program. I am gonna, since we're supposed to end in about 8 minutes, and I have a series of questions here, I'm just gonna power through them rather quickly, because I do want to give people a chance. If you want to make comments, we want to be able to hear from you. So one thing was, is this a temporary or permanent program and location? It is by its nature short-term. We have to do an environmental study, and so this question of where are alternate sites or additional sites is going to be very important to that CEQA review that we need to do. So that will be important, and so that has to, this can't be in this location for more than slightly less than a year. So that's, it's temporary by, just by its very nature. Can the number of cars and RVs continue to grow as more find out about this? If we have expanded locations, yes. What other county-owned sites have been considered for the car program? We've been looking quite extensively in our district, but we've also started talking about other county facilities, and That's going to be an ongoing conversation with my colleagues. I think, having a parking program in some of the county parks might be an option. Again, we're happy if other jurisdictions want to participate, but we only can be the boss of our land, and so we're really looking at sites that are within the county's direct control. We're happy to partner with any jurisdiction or any private person who wants to participate with us. But it's quicker for us to do things when it's something that we directly can control and affect. Yeah, I'll ask. This question is, the county supervisors unanimously passed the resolution to make the 4th District Supervisor's parking lot, actually it's the coastal office of the county, a safe parking lot. Would the city of Marina be able to show a minimum level of support and endorse the resolution for that site? That would be for the city of Marina, perhaps.
So I'm not sure what the minimum level of support would be, and probably we'd have to have this in operations for a few months to understand the demand, little or a lot, and then we could answer that question. But our police chief, Tina Nieto, probably has some input here, Tina, on what you think the level of support we could provide as far as police support.
Well, I think this was actually more just a statement. So it seems like it would be something that would have to come to the city council for some sort of action. That's what well, maybe.
No, that was all it was.
Oh, okay. So
I just would like maybe 10 words or less, or a yes or no, to our police chief, Tina Nieto, if you think that our current staff has much ability to spend a few hours over there now and then.
With all due respect, Mr. Mayor, that wasn't the question.
The answer is minimum,
Yeah.
and we wouldn't be able to commit much resources to it. And my comfort level with the amount of resources that the sheriffs would commit to it, I don't know what the answer is, because they couldn't even say what the amount of sites that they had given in previous time before starting to work on the issue.
Right. I thought the question was, can we provide minimum support? And I thought that would be a minimum.
It would be a
support,
minimum.
a few hours now and then from our police. So.
Okay, I think, yeah, great. Let's see, since December 1st, program start date was delayed and winter is setting in, has anyone come forth to offer temporary parking? Well, as long as, until the safe parking program at the coastal office or wherever it ends up being goes into operation, the program out on Lapis Road is still in place. Micah County and communities create a nonprofit RV park and campground integrated with social services to help the homeless and low-income retiree nomads. This is a question that has come up. Of course, I can't quite answer it, but there are, I heard from someone from Pacific Grove who was very interested in seeing if the communities could get together, find a location, because one of the challenges for people who are lower income and living in their RVs is that the established RV park facilities are expensive. So
$35 to $85 a day.
Yeah, which is a lot of money when you're on a fixed income or have virtually none. So
that means I could stay there on my income, which is about $1,000 a month. That means I could stay there about half the month, and then I'd have to go with no food and no
drive around in a low mileage vehicle. So it's a challenge. So those were the questions that I had. We have about 2 minutes left, which is not sufficient. So can I get an idea of how many people would like to just make a comment? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so that's going to be 10 in the end. So let's go ahead and take an extra 10 minutes. And if you would come forward, where's the microphone? It is there? Okay, it just needs to be made more visible. Great.
Supervisor Parker, I just have one quick question concerning the county supervisors meeting tomorrow.
Yes.
Is the on the agenda still the declaration for an emergency in place? To be,
There's nothing on the agenda tomorrow, which means that nothing changes, right? Or is there?
There's a declaration of a shelter crisis on the agenda for tomorrow.
okay.
Right, but in terms of the parking program and the Lapis Road program, nothing is changing. So we don't know the start date right now of the parking program, but the Lapis Road program stays in place.
Okay.
Great. Timer is ready. Okay,
Yeah, Michael, just a little
1 minute.
reality check on, from going out at Lapis overnight last week and just walking around there in the daytime. It's really down to about one car and one RV. Everybody else has been scared out, or else they're all parked at the top end where there's 24-hour safe parking because there's no tollway zone, it's not county property, etc. Makes me wonder when the safe parking thing is ever set up, one, the city manager's concerned about like an enormous number of vehicles or enormously over-concerned, it's a boogeyman. And two, the fact that Marina thinks that they don't have to do anymore. I mean, just talking this afternoon, a guy said, how can you expect RV people to come to this meeting when it's illegal for them to park in the city of Marina? I had a little old lady that couldn't drive into Marina to the city park to fill up her water jugs because it was illegal. She walked. To say that Marina can't do a little bit more, hiding your head in the sand.
Next speaker, and if you would like to, I see you're starting to line up. Good, thank you.
I spoke before the Board of Supervisors when this came up a week or so ago. I think the One Starfish program is a great program. I first heard about it about the time they got started in Civic Grove about 4 years ago. And it really is an excellent program. It deals with one small segment of the population that is homeless due to the fact that there are economic problems that have occurred. They're not criminals, they're not homeless because they're substance abusers, et cetera, et cetera. It's a great program. I think the location is terrible. And this does not mean it shouldn't be in Marina. It means that it's a sloping parking lot. They can't use their refrigerators. They can't use, it's just a bad location. And it's in a scary location. And it's not in a patrolled location. My suggestion would be for a temporary solution for your pilot program, that it be on 12th Street at the health facility that's out there. That's a flat parking lot. It is in a patrolled area. I think as a community member and a city council member, it is something that I would feel more comfortable with for both the homeless population and our house population.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Thank you, Kevin. My first thing is, when you allowed the parking on Lapis Road between the hours of 7 and 10 a.m., it was stated that by the 30th of the month, that it would end, 30th of November, and there was no extending it, was what was put out to the public, our next door neighbors. That came from your office, came from Wendy. So anyways, I believe that Natividad Road would be a much better location in Salinas. Why? You have Natividad Health Center, the public services, you have Natividad Hospital, you have all the lots there. And they're well lit and all the services are there for these folks. So I believe, for one, that would be a much better location.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Karen Chan, resident of Marina, and first I just want to thank all you guys for even bringing this together. When I was 19 years old, I was a single mother, I was homeless. And I spent about 2 years trying to not be homeless anymore. I was in transitional housing and shelters, and it's not easy. But what I can say is that listening to the One Starfish program, that's the best thing I've heard this whole night. I think it's really, what you guys are doing is really, really great. At the same time, people who are homeless, they need to work towards not being homeless anymore. It's a daily fight, it's a daily struggle. So I thank you guys again for everything that you guys are doing, and thank you, One Starfish.
Hi, I'm Becky Johnson with the Salinas Monterey County Homeless Union and a supporter of the Lapis Road Homeowners Association. As you know, homelessness is a problem throughout the country. There's really no major city that's devoid of homeless people. Our own statistics show that we've had an increase in homelessness, not a drop, despite all of our efforts. And I think we all agree that the cause of homelessness, at least in this area, is that the housing costs are so high that not everybody who lives here can afford it. We have to stop thinking of people who are living in their vehicles as that they're some sort of refuse, or they're some sort of sanitation dump, or that they're some sort of drug house, or you know, these negative implications. Homeless people are just regular people, just like you. The only thing in common that they have is they have no money and they can't afford the housing here. So let's just, they're the easiest people to house. All they need is a flat piece of ground.
Thank you. Next speaker.
I just had a quick question, because there are many different locations as alternatives. In your CEQA review document, how will you identify what are the alternatives to be considered, and to make sure that's as expansive as the entire county? So maybe somebody knows the answer.
Thank you. We will explore that question. Next speaker.
I'd like to wish Ms. Robinson a happy birthday. Happy birthday.
The microphone is on the left.
I just want to make a quick statement. I've been, and it doesn't have, it's going to sound like it doesn't have anything to do with this, but it does. I've been working on a case to try to find this beautiful dog that's been abandoned and abused. It's been my 8 days. I go there every 2 hours and take 2 hours break, and go back there every 2 hours and walk this dog, and got blisters on my feet, but I'm okay. Well, I was asked by the SPCA and Animal Control if I would like to have a job with them, but I have fibromyalgia, real bad anxiety. I mean, my anxiety really takes me down. My fibromyalgia, they're very sensitive. I told them, no, but I will do this for you. And then I meet other people. They're in the same situation as I am, living in RV, having the same big heart, wanting to help a stray animal out there. And, oh, this one guy came to a rescue with this woman getting beat up. She's homeless. She's just had a baby. This guy played that he was going to be nice and help her and her baby and try to take her in and everything. And this homeless guy came to her rescue because he happened to be parked right there near where he heard her scream. So what I'm saying is, there are people like myself that are out there and doing good. I come from a background of being a caregiver, and that's how I got hurt. This is how I got to be on disabilities. I got hurt while being a caregiver, and then I finally decided I'm going to take care of myself, but now it's been hard to take care of myself.
Yeah, thank you.
It's another example of how we as a community have been contributing to the area out there. Trash pickups, animal rescue, self-policing.
Great. Thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening, Supervisor Parker, members of the dais. Jay Fagan. Those who know me, my wife and I own our home, and I have my business here in Marina. A couple of things. I founded my company 10 years ago on the premise that we can make our region achieve its highest potential through empowering small businesses and nonprofits. I've been involved in the homeless services area for about 10 years, and it's all in the nonprofit world. The business community wants to step up. does step up and should be part of this conversation. So I encourage you to reach out to us. I created a staffing division just this year to help hire veterans because there's a need. On the other side that I'd like you to consider, Mr. Mayor, one of these days we're going to be on the same page, not tonight. Marina does its fair share. I agree with all of that. But that doesn't mean we stop. You know, you can't create new land, and Marina and Seaside have both of it. So I encourage us to be open to concepts like the VTC was with the city of Monterey, where we took their $600,000 and we built housing for 16 homeless veterans in Marina. Now, I get it, we've done our part and we should be proud of that, but there's a whole lot more to do, and I think we can do it together.
Next speaker.
I'm the last speaker. Last speaker of the night. Catherine, Homeless Coalition. Just a couple things, because I only got a minute and I got to sign my money. I just want to say a couple things. One, echo the thoughts of the young lady said that this is not an isolated problem. Every jurisdiction of the country is grappling with this problem. Canada is grappling with this problem. It is not getting better, it is getting worse, and that is despite everyone's best efforts. Things are, everyone who's homeless is in house because of lack of effort, right? There's huge effort happening. I just want to say that no matter what happens with this, we cannot lose traction. It always goes back to one question: where will it be located? And if we step all the way back to asking that initial question again, then we're going to be forecasting out months from now, right? So whether or not it's I love the idea about it being a rotated annual program amongst jurisdictions. That's good, and I'm going to bring that up. But I'm afraid we're going to lose traction if it's going to be a question of not here, not here, not here, not here. We have to cite somewhere, figure it out. It may not serve everyone. No shelter program does, right? But it's a start, and that's where we need to start. We need to start, figure out what works, tweak out what doesn't, move forward and expand. But we have to keep this ball moving forward. So there you go.
Put it someplace for 6 months.
Next speaker?
Oh, I'm not the last speaker, sorry.
No, it's a moving target.
Hi there. I think that was my suggestion about the rotating and, kind of sharing the ability to do that. I was out on Lapis Road, and we've been in here a few years now, and when I drove by, it was so horrible out there. My husband and I stopped the car, took videos, which we have. The gentleman that was sitting there before who did all the cleanup, I can verify it was just that bad. We took pictures of it and we took video because there was open sewage. It was one of the worst things I've ever seen. We got out of the car. This was not trash on the side of the road. It was literally around the vehicles. So I have pictures and video, if you want to verify that. Marina's made it actually to the New York Times in the comment sections because of what's going out on Lapis Road. It's very disturbing to me to see the public lands used this way. These are for everybody. It's not for people to set up a little pup tent and, live there. I mean, everybody wants to live somewhere, right? But public lands are for the public. And they can't be for the public if they're full of trash. It's just very upsetting to me. I just want you to know I oppose the car program as it stands out on the other area, and I also oppose any parking out on Lapis Road, any parking. I was surprised when the parking started there and they didn't just nip it in the bud right away. I'm like, okay, when are they going to do it? When are they going to do it? When are they going to do it? And it got to a really bad point. So I just wanted to make the point that what he said happened actually did happen.
Thank you.
I have videos and it did. And I want to thank him for cleaning it up because there was raw open sewage. And I have videos. It was flowing in the streets there.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for all you're doing.
Sure thing. Next speaker?
So I know you discussed talking about other areas, and one of the things I brought up in one of my questions was what other areas specifically, because I know you're only talking about Marina right now, and everybody focuses on Marina because it's the easy place to focus on, because we don't have high-priced lawyers like Carmel, Pacific Grove, that are going to prevent immediately they're going to prevent you from putting an initiative forward in their area. And Marina is, I'm sorry, it is the dumping ground for these types of issues. And Marina does a lot already to facilitate these kinds of programs for people with housing needs. And to continue to force it on Marina and not share it amongst the other county, places in the county. Monterey County is huge. There are other areas that can equally share this burden, I think is unfair. I don't know what district, what town you live in, but it can equally be there as in Marina. I think, you know, moving forward, I think everybody that's homeless obviously wants a place to go. You know, that's obvious, but I think the burden needs to be shared.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Is there a way to get the picture up on the overhead? Challenge sheet?
It's on the left side, indeed. I think it takes a while to get them.
Here it comes.
Must be the IT guy.
Other duties as a sign.
It's just used it before.
Okay, well, this picture was taken 2 days ago when I drove down Lapis Road. And the reason that I took it is because, for two things.
Oh, wait a minute. Can you cover up your driver's
Yeah.
license, please?
Oh, man, yeah.
I'm sorry, hon.
Good eye, very good eye. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was taken 2 days ago, and I took it for a reason. It's true that other people go and dump where they can easily get away with it and blame it on somebody else.
I have identical pictures on my phone.
Also, what I did witness is a homeless person went and made some money by going and doing a cleanup and then went and dumped there and then drove down to Monte Road and Park. So it's a 50-50 contribution. So what it came to my mind was, are we going to set things up that's going to attract this? Or do we need to veer away from that? And what's a resolution that can take care of somebody that needs to transition back into a home and not look for a solution that keeps our people in inhabitable situations? So, and I think that's the main focus we need to focus on, not can we rotate or can we, and we need to do that, but how we keep them out there, we need to get them out.
Thank you. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate everyone being willing to condense your comments down to a very short 1 minute, and I appreciate you all being here. As you can hear from things that we're saying and that you all are saying, what is being proposed as the safe parking program is not, it's not the be-all end-all, it's not the answer to anything, it's a very small fraction, and we're all looking for the ways that we can all participate to make sure that all of us have what we need to have a safe, productive life, and it can be a real challenge. So I appreciate your interest and your participation, and we look forward to continuing the conversation as we look to implement something that will work for people and look for further locations. This is the current location being contemplated, obviously isn't anyone's or isn't many people's favorite, and it's certainly not big enough to accommodate the size of the problem. So all of your suggestions about other locations, My staff and I have been reaching out to every jurisdiction on the peninsula to encourage their participation. How can we partner? And we will continue to do that. And with your help in identifying locations that might work, we'll find solutions bit by bit. So thanks so much for being here tonight.